Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the GSD Show. I'm your host, Mike Arcee, and today I've got an awesome guest. I'm sitting down with a powerhouse in the branding arena. He's the founder and CEO of BoomPromo, a trailblazer in high-touch corporate gifting and promotional products. This man is crafting connections and reshaping the way we think about corporate swag. He's right out of Tempe, Arizona. He's not just a mastermind in business, he's also a devoted father to two amazing teenagers and a fitness enthusiast who can be found at the CrossFit box, pounding the pavement for a run, or even hoisting weights in an Olympic lifting session. So we're going to dive into his journey of building a brand that stands out, the delicate art of balancing life as a CEO and dad, how commitment to fitness fuels his drive for success, and this thing called a death trip, which is actually my favorite reason for having him on. We're going to talk about that. So without further ado, let's jump into the episode with the branding guru himself, Mr. Zack Barna. Zack, welcome to the GSD Show.
Mike, such a pleasure, man.
Man, excited to have you on. And we actually just kind of spoke about this morning, but what triggered us getting even this happening was the concept of the death trip, which we're going to dive into, but just so you know, that's going to be your favorite part of this entire episode. But before we do that, you're a branding guy. You've helped, I don't know how many businesses, thousands of businesses with their branding, and particularly with gifting, promotional products. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of unique stuff between the time you started, which was how long ago?
2007.
So you started the business 2007, we're 2023, around 2023 now. So you're talking, was that 16 years?
Yes, sir.
So 16 years, you see some unique stuff. So obviously, you know, we work with a lot of gyms, a lot of fitness users, and you know the gym space very, very well. You're a fit guy. You're always in the fitness.
I do.
So what are some things that you've seen that have been really unique, stand out, can really separate a company from everyone else sending the same old shit all the time?
Yeah, I think the big evolution was toward quality. You know, I think there was an era back when I first started where people were just trying to get the most product for the least amount of money, and those days are just gone.
Like pens and hats.
And now it's like, if you're going to give somebody a gift, if you're going to give your gym goers a gift, like, you want to give them something that the quality is there. And so the days of chasing the lowest dollar amount, those days are gone.
Yeah.
And then a massive change here in the last post-COVID era is short run. So now we're doing so much for our clients where we're making items one at a time, packaging them and drop shipping them. No need to order 100 at a time. No need to warehouse a bunch of swag at your office. We're able to make custom gifts and drop ship them anywhere in the country.
And that's kind of what we do at Loudrumor too. So, I mean, for us, it's same deal, right? Like if you have a new customer, you don't have to have all this stuff warehouse in the back.
Without a doubt.
Just ship it out to them. Or you can get a few things, just keep it in, and then as you need more, just get them. When employees start, you can have things shift over to new employees, or employees celebrate a certain milestone. So I want to dive into a couple things like that. Like, what are some really good unique gift ideas you've seen for staffing? Like, hey, we just got a new employee. What can we do to make them feel like excited to be a part of us tangibly?
Yeah.
Dive into customers.
We're doing so much of that right now. So a huge piece of that is custom online stores. So we build online stores for our clients free of charge. And one of the ways they're utilizing them, along with one-off production, is when you hire that new employee, as part of their onboarding, you can shoot them a link to the store and they can pick their items. They can pick a polo, a jacket, and a hat. We'll make them all, kit them all, and send them to them. So they're kind of part of the process of doing a little shopping on the company dime. And it gives a little more selection than just you walk in the door and here's your hat and good luck to you. You get to participate a little bit in making a choice. And I think the choice is something that really matters. And we're seeing it in gifting as well, where say you have a great referral source and you want to do something fun for them. We can build a company store that has custom gifts in it where you can send it to the referral source and just say, hey, pick something off this list. It's on me. We'll handle the production. Invoicing will come back to you. And you gave them a little experience where they're thinking about you a little more often.
Right. Yeah, because for referral partners, you know, on this show, we talk a lot about B2B relationships, building strategic partnerships with other businesses.
That's a huge piece of our whole world.
Really?
Yeah.
So what do you recommend? Like, let's say I own a gym and I've got a relationship with a massage therapist, a physical therapist, let's say chiropractor, all in the same like area, built these strategic partnerships.
Yes.
What are some things that I could do? We got holiday time coming up now. Like, how do we leverage?
I think something that can be game changing and comes from a place of just straight generosity is if you're going to pitch these gift ideas to them, the gift themselves that they receive, maybe it has their branding on it. Maybe it doesn't have you on it at all. Maybe the gift that you're going to send them is a really cool jacket, but the logo that's going to be on it is actually theirs. So it ends up feeling much more like a gift than just giving your referral partner a loud rumor jacket that they're walking around town repping your brand with. All of a sudden, it's their brand that you gave them as a gift.
Right.
So,
because when you think about it, the goal is not necessarily for them to wear your hoodie or your hat, because they probably won't anyway.
yeah,
The goal is to strengthen the relationship and make them feel like even more partnered with you.
Well, we do something similar. We have something called a Boom Bomb, is kind of our marketed piece that we send out to prospective clients, where we send them a gift to their office where our branding isn't on anything. It's all of their branding on the items. It is just strictly a gift to get them thinking about us, and to get them, that generosity has a tendency to kind of flip itself right back to you, where they're like, wow, okay, this has nothing to do with them, has everything to do with us. I'm intrigued. Maybe there's a conversation here, and that's all we want to do is talk. And that's usually all we need.
Because a lot of times when people think like building the brand, they're thinking specifically like the logo and, and then that's why I think people go that route. But really building the brand is that feeling you get when you see that company, and like we know Redirect Health with Dave Berg, like Dave Berg is part of that brand, right? So we think you can't think of Redirect Health without Dave Berg and the things that he's done if you know Dave, right? And I think the same thing goes. The brand isn't just the logo and the way things look on a piece of paper on a header. The brand is overall the feeling that you get.
Yeah.
And if you were to, let's say, send me a gift and it said BoomPromo on it, name of your company, that would be cool. I'd be like, thanks.
Yeah.
But if you sent me one with like GSD on it or loudrumor, I would feel a lot better. Like, I'm like, cool, this is another cool thing. And may even give me ideas on how I can use this thing.
Yeah.
Which is great. So you gave me ideas, whether it's, even if it didn't come from you, it came from another strategic partner. The fact that someone gave me an idea is even valuable, right? Without anything in return needed.
Yeah. And I think even beyond that is starting with generosity. That gives you such a platform to start from, where I feel like trust levels even feel higher faster with those potential clients, where it started with something really generous, where that's kind of our first step into them being like, oh, okay, I don't have to worry about, pinching pennies with them or being fearful about the budget of this deal. The way this company operates is through generosity. So there's going to be total transparency from the jump. And that just gives us this trust that we want from our clients. We're in a specific niche where we want clients that are thinking at that level, and this is the best way for us to find them, is just try to match our energies.
So Zach, when we're talking about, things that you can give to a new member, that balances it's affordable, but it also makes a really good impact at the moment of them signing up, right? Now they've got this thing. What's an example for, if I own a gym, I just got a new member, something that would be really good?
Yeah, I mean, in that space, I always like to think about items that you can see go into use into the gym. I think about a gym bag, a duffel bag that I have from East Valley CrossFit. I think I've had it for 10 years. It's been my gym bag ever since they first gave it to me. It's all black. It kind of is simple, masculine, fits my vibe. And I've used it ever since. And I think those are the spaces where you can be efficient with your money, in like the bags, in the drinkware. Obviously, shaker bottles are always a huge deal, but I also love like the stainless steel, little longer shelf life than a shaker bottle. People can have those stainless steel bottles for years.
Right.
And, if there's budget and opportunity to kit things together where, hey, the welcome kit is a bag, a bottle, maybe a hat or something that you can represent outside the gym, then even better if it feels more like a welcoming kit that's going together.
Yeah. What about for employees? Like, what's a really good that balances the affordability and impact?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's kind of in that same vein. I mean, you want your brand to be like operating around the gym. You want it to be flowing throughout the gym. And so making sure that your crew is never short on swag options, making sure your team is always geared up. I feel like that's like such a simple way and super affordable way when it comes to t-shirts.
Yeah. And you've built a pretty successful company here. We're informed together at EO.
Yeah.
And, it's been great watching your growth, and not just in the financials, but also with the team that you've built that's able to run this business But on top of that, you're a super fit guy. You're very clear on what you need to do. Your family, you've got a great relationship with the kids.
Yep.
So how do you balance that for everyone wondering, like, man, how do I balance the act of being a really good, successful CEO while also having being a successful CEO at home?
Yeah, the habit of fitness and sweating and moving has become so ingrained in me that I almost suffer when I don't do it. And it's not only the physiological benefits that I get, but I get so much psychologically out of moving, out of sweating, and frankly, out of playing. Like, the gym time for me is kind of like my play time. It's a time where I get to be free. I love showing up to a gym where the workout is written for me. I don't have to think at all. I think all day, every day, and I get to go to a space where tell me what to do. I'm going to do exactly what's on this board.
Right.
And I'm going to give it my all, even if it's Turkish get-ups all day, which are just like the most random movement ever, but also so effective and so powerful. So there's magic in just showing up and dedicating yourself. Like, hey, my morning fitness is before anything else, and it's a huge piece.
So you start your day with it.
Mornings, yeah. Mornings.
Time you get up. What time you start to work?
I'm like 5:30 up. Try to be at the gym at 6:30, 7.
Okay.
And it's just a way to start my day. The days where I have something early in the morning and then I have to try to get to the gym at like 5 p.m. Oh, those days are hard.
Yeah.
That is not.
I tend to rule them out. I got to get it done in the morning.
Well, at my gym, you have like the PM crowd and the AM crowd, and like the PM crowd does not understand us.
No.
They're just like, why are you in a good mood at 5:30 in the morning? And then the AMers, we look at the PMers and we're like, what's wrong with you guys?
Yeah.
Who trains at 7 p.m.? You're out of your mind.
Right.
Makes no sense to me.
Right. It's different personalities.
Yeah, can't do it.
So there's this one thing that, and this is the main reason I wanted you to be on this show, was one thing that you said in EO Forum, and you might have said it to the group a bunch of times. I just recently joined the group about, 7 months ago, in May. You talk about this death trip. And this was the coolest part of Forum so far for me, like understanding how you look at this.
Yeah.
And so once a year, you go on a death trip. What is death trip? And it's yours, your idea, right? What is death trip?
Yeah, death trip started on a plane. It started on a turbulent flight. It was one of those surreal flights where we just kept hitting these pockets and the plane dropping and people gasping, which is such a strange reaction. Like, that's not a reaction I would have, but it is wild how people's reaction is to audibly make a noise.
Right.
And when you're hearing it in all directions, you find yourself kind of being like, what's happening right now? Like, is this it? Like, is this thing going to go down? And, I remember the lady next to me had this neck pillow on and she's trying to watch her iPad and she's getting rocked everywhere. Finally, she puts that away. And I see the flight attendant kind of rush by us and buckle herself in, where all of my thoughts are just like, oh, this could be real. And I had this kind of terror that went through me. And the root of that terror was that I just didn't have my affairs in order. Like, I did not have my shit together. I hadn't revisited my will. I couldn't remember the last time. My wife has no idea, like, where a lot of the investment account login information is. I'm not even sure she knows where any of it is. And my life insurance information is all over the place. I had no plan for the business in the event that I died. All this stuff kind of flashed through me in those moments. And by the time we landed and I was in an Uber heading to my house, all I could think about was like, what can I do to maybe go through that situation again and be able to treat it much differently? What does it take to be that guy sitting on the plane when, the Grim Reaper is walking right up to you and you can just give him a fist bump and be okay with going into the abyss? That's where Death Trip, that's kind of the jump off point for where Death Trip started. So the original idea was I had another flight in 30 days and I'm going to pretend like I'm going to die on that flight. And that is my death trip. So I ended up kind of building a system back off of that plan.
Wow. When was this?
This was in 2018.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now you've done Death Trip how many times?
5 times.
5 times. And I was with you on the most recent one.
Yes.
In Seattle.
Yes.
Where we went to EO Alchemy.
Yep.
And we were all going on the trip, but you were kind of in a different space than everybody else.
Without a doubt.
And so what is that like? Like, what's the preparation before the Death Trip? What are all the things that you're doing now? Because obviously over 5 years, you've modified it a bit.
Totally. Well, and, as entrepreneurs, like the very first thought that I had was like, all right, I need to build a system for this. Like, it's the only way I'll be accountable to it. So I built a system. So it was 30 days. The commitment was every single morning, waking up early and spending time on Death Trip. So that was writing every single day. And the journal was very simple. On the top, I write the number of days I have left to live, 30. Right below it, I write, what's the thing I'm going to miss the most when I'm gone? That's my first prompt. And then I broke it into 4 categories, and those were financials, family, friends, and fitness. So those were my 4 focal points that I was going to think about trying to get things done every day, whether that was calling my financial planner or making sure that my will and trust are set up correctly. And what's interesting is at the beginning of this, I felt like it was going to be a big financial overhaul, and it was almost the exact opposite. It was this huge emotional, spiritual journey to kind of reconnect with myself and make sure that I'm being who I want to be.
Yeah, because I remember you saying, like, initially you thought finances were going to be the biggest part of this, like preparing your finances.
Yes.
And making sure that everybody that's in your circle, your family, your kids, they have what they need. And while they're going through this, traumatic event, they don't have to like figure out with attorneys how to get things.
Yes.
Right. And then what you said was it ended up being at the bottom of the things that you had on there as well.
Without a doubt.
So what rose to the top and what was second, third?
Yeah, it felt like when I first mapped it, it felt like a financial exercise. Just make sure everything's perfect for the family when you die. And what ended up happening as those days ticked down, 25, 20, 11 days left to live, 7 days left to live, all of that financial stuff moved way down to the bottom. And I really ended up having fitness and family at the very top. And fitness was beyond my physical fitness. Fitness was, where am I at spiritually? When I wake up, am I being who I want to be? Am I doing the work that I want to be doing? Am I proud of who I am? Am I proud of the example I'm leaving for my son and my daughter? That was the fitness piece for me. Mm-hmm. And the family piece was nothing left unsaid. Gratitude every day. It's an interesting piece, that piece of what are you going to miss the most? Because it started out pretty superficial. It started out with things like, my morning coffee and my quiet time in the morning. And by the end of it, it got so real on what I'm going to miss the most. Just the sound of my son's voice and, just the quiet time that me and my daughter have, sometimes I would let those moments slide by and not be present in them. And it just was impossible for that to happen during that time. Like I was so there in the moment. Yeah. And yeah, the game just flipped on me in that way.
I remember like when you had told me this, it made me start taking action on it. So I got the whole life insurance thing all done because I hadn't done it since I was making, a fifth of the income we were making before. We did this years and years ago. And so things are changed, right? And I think I even had less kids at the time I last visited it. So we readjusted that. I also started journaling a lot more. Different thoughts. I created a podcast / journal for the kids, like dad's lessons. I started interviewing family members, starting with like older ones on like the family history to be able to leave that for the kids. Because I know I might
steal that.
Yeah. I know the stories, but once this person dies and I die, the stories are gone. Because I don't have stories past my great grandma. That's it.
Yeah. So you can really be the conduit here,
the Vesper.
For way beyond your years.
Right. And I feel like, I'm pretty good for me because I've created so much content with these videos and I've shared my thoughts on things. So I feel like my kids are going to be able to watch me in stages forever, right? And my grandkids and my great-grandkids. But my great grandma lived in a small town in Ecuador on a horse. She was an entrepreneur that went miles and miles to go get jewelry and come back and sell it on a horse. She'd travel for days, and she had like real estate that she started like working. She had like a farm in one of the houses. She had real estate, and she was like selling chickens and eggs. Like she had like 5-6 things going, and she did really, really well. But my kids wouldn't know that.
Yes.
There's no way. She died at 100, right? Like at 100.
Yeah, and if you don't take those actions, those things won't exist for them.
Right.
You know, like the action is everything. You know, some of the critical errors that I made was the first 2 years of Death Trip, I didn't tell anyone I was doing Death Trip. So I did this alone. And I was having 30 days of these wildly intense conversations with my friends where they're just like, what the hell is going on? Does Zack have cancer or something? Like, what's happening to the guy?
Right.
And it wasn't...
Well, to you kind of did.
Well, I did. Like, in my own way, I kind of did. And, you know, I even remember the day of my flight on the first Death Trip. Like, I was sitting in the back of an Uber crying. I had said goodbye to my kids. I literally, viscerally felt like I was not going to see them again. And it was massively heavy, where I actually questioned why I'm doing this, where I'm like, this actually hurts so bad. In reality, I don't know why I'm doing this to myself. But then breathing through it, I'm like, oh God, maybe this is like the whole point.
What was it like coming back?
Just magic. Massive amounts of gratitude, total residual presence. The realization that I can live like that all the time. Like I don't have to wait for my 30 days. And, you know, with 2020 hitting, I death tripped in 2020. 2020 was an unbelievable year for me in the sense that my business was dying. We were in a space that was just got absolutely chopped. Corporate events, corporate swag. I mean, gone. My marriage was dying in 2020, gone. And I'm going on this death trip because I've dedicated myself to doing it where I'm like, man, if I die in 2020 on this trip, I will be so pissed off. Like, there's such a comeback story for me. Right. And if I die before my comeback story, it will feel so unjust. But also I have to be ready. Like, that's my agreement with myself. And because I feel like it's unjust, it does not deny the fact that death can come in any ordinary moment. And I am not
anyone.
I'm not in control of that piece. And so enduring 2020, and let's be frank, when you're contemplating your own death with a clock counting it down, if you're in an unhealthy relationship, it's going to be a glaring mark to you. If you're working for a company that you don't believe in, it's going to be a glaring mark. And when that time pressure gets on you, those pieces, they really jump out where you're like, oh man, like I've been not wanting to face this, but now I have to face this. You know, I don't have time to be in a relationship where I'm unfulfilled or unseen. I don't have time to work for a company that doesn't align with my values. I don't have time to maybe be living a lifestyle where I'm not respecting my body or my soul. All of these things come to the forefront, and how you take action on them, it's really up to you.
Well, because you always think you got time.
Yes.
There's actually
yeah, I'll get in shape next year. You know, I'll start doing that next year. I'll get my resume tuned up and look for a job next year. Like, you don't have time. You don't have time.
Yeah. We actually talked about that this morning. Everybody complains about how fast time goes, but everybody acts like they're going to live forever.
Yeah.
And what we also talked a little bit about today was, you know, I'm optimistic. I don't even like getting in that headspace. I don't like drawing that or manifesting that and all that. But it's like, look, Kobe Bryant was a pretty optimistic guy who did a lot of really good things in this world. And look where this happens. It happens to good people, happens to bad people, happens to everyone in between.
Yeah.
And optimistic or not, like, everyone's guaranteed to die.
Yeah.
What we're not guaranteed is the date. And you don't know when that's going to be. And so being able to take that into account when you're having your conversations with people, when you're deciding who your relationships are going to be and what you're going to do, where you're going to work, all that's super important.
Yeah.
So your kids are young. How old are your kids?
12 and 14.
Do they know of Death Trip, or do you kind of limit that?
I have not included them in yet.
When do you think you might do that?
I almost feel like they're ready. I thought about it this year. I really did, because my son is such an old soul for 12, and my daughter, that she almost seems like an adult at this point. There's no doubt that they could handle it. I think maybe next year's the time.
Yeah.
I just wasn't quite ready for it.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Have you documented any of this for them? Things that you do?
Wow. I've never thought about letting them into it. I have journal entries.
Let's say you did die.
Yeah.
Would you like to leave them with Death Trip?
Wow. The practice of it? Oh, 100%.
You documented that for them.
I thought you were asking, would I like to leave them like what I've written over the course of these 5 death trips?
No.
I think about it a little
That's
too
more for personal. No. I meant more of like so that they could practice.
Oh,
this.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
That's awesome.
Well, and I think that there's a superpower in facing and befriending the inevitable of death. There's a book called The Denial of Death by Ernest Becker, where he essentially talks about the human animal is haunted by death. It's the haunting of consciousness itself, knowing that you're going to die. And all of us in so many ways try to fight against death and deny death, whether it's making as much money as humanly possible or putting our name on a building. All of these are our gestures to kind of say, hey, even when I'm dead, I'm still here. I'm kind of defying you, death.
Right.
And Death Trip is like the exact opposite of that. Death Trip is saying like, hey, okay, let's be friends. How about we get a couple reps in? How about we get a couple reps of this death thing and see how we feel about each other? So when my time comes, I'll be with you. I'll be in tune with you. And I've felt that a little bit. That first Death Trip ride to the airport, being so emotional and really wondering why I'm doing this to myself, to this year when I'm on my way to the airport with just this feeling of calm, content, peace, and just gratitude for the time that I've had. And if it's time to fist bump each other, then I'm ready for it. There's a huge amount of peace that's inside of it.
When you go on this trip, are you thinking you're going to die on the flight there, on the trip, or the flight back?
On the flight there.
On the flight
on
there.
The flight there.
So once you get to where you're going, you kind of like chilled in?
100%.
Okay, so when we were in Seattle, you're not like thinking like,
oh no, I'm already through. Like you're through. I'm already through the exercise at that point.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, so it's really just a flight there. That's interesting.
Yes.
Awesome, man. Well, dude, I wanted you to share that because I thought it was an incredible concept, and I wanted to be able to have that in my podcast for even just myself.
Yeah.
But then for everybody else that thinks this way, I think about death quite a bit. I think it's the easiest way to just connect to gratitude is just the concept of like, oh yeah, that's right, yeah. I can die or you can die. Like this easily brings everyone back to the reality of what life is and what it isn't. So I appreciate you sharing this with me, man. I appreciate you also sharing some business stuff with us. And where can people learn more about you?
On Instagram, I'm just at Zack Barna on Instagram. Anybody who wants to discuss Death Trip or wants to take my recipe for Death Trip, I would love to hear from anyone. Reach out to me. I'll share kind of the template for it, and I'd love to hear anyone's experience with it as well.
I love it. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate you, man.
Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks for watching or listening, and we'll see you next week.